I am the Super Pro Todd Black, and it's time for another episode of the AEW Report. And this is yet another weekly chronicle talking about the highs, the lows, and of course, people throwing shade on AEW. And yeah, it's been an interesting week, especially since we are now in the final days before AEW Grand Slam, which is definitely something I'll be talking about. But first, what were the highs of the week? Well, there were quite a few, not the least of which is Wrestle Dream continues to get more matches. Again, that is the October 1st pay per view. It is the tribute to Antonio Inoki, whom Tony Khan had great respect for. And we got multiple new matches, including Swerve Strickland versus Hangman Page, which I think is going to be really, really cool. FTR versus Aussie Open, which is only the second time they'll have met. And if you didn't see the last one when FTR beat Aussie Open for the IWGP heavyweight tag team titles, it was considered a classic. So now we're going to get that on AEW television. And Shibata has been confirmed to be going to Wrestle Dream. Who is he facing? We don't know yet, but this could be really, really good. And of course, again, we're still getting Bryan Danielson versus Zack Sabre Jr. Now, this next one is interesting because this is very much a low point to a high point. I want to make something very, very clear here. I am an AEW fan, obviously. I'm doing a thing called the AEW Report, but by no means do I think AEW is perfect. I do apologize if it has come off that way, and I do make that joking line at the end. Yes, there's absolutely other wrestling programs you can watch. Some are better than others, and some just don't deserve to be watched. That's just how things go. But AEW is not perfect, and if you want the best example of that, look at how they've handled the women's division in recent times. From Wembley, where they had the Fatal 4-Way match, which lasted less than 10 minutes, and then had like multi-minute celebration for Saraya, to which Saraya won, and not everyone was happy about that, including myself, because I didn't like how Hikaru Shida had like a 20-day reign as champion. That wasn't cool. And then this week they had a fatal 4-way match on Dynamite to determine the number one contender to go face Saraya at Grand Slam. And I was like, okay, this will be good. Let the women cook and be done with it. Yeah, they didn't let them cook. They had a 6-minute and 30-second match for a number one contendership. Are you kidding me? Really? That's how you want to handle it? And then after that was when the Jade Cargill report started coming out, and I'll be talking about Jade in full, but that led to her final match in AEW. Yes, her final match in AEW. On Rampage, where the women had the main event, and it was Jade Cargill versus Chris Statlander for the TBS title. And guess what? Jade actually had her best match. And for the record, she has had good matches before. Most of them have been squashes, or sorry, just the overall catalog of her matches have mostly been squashes. But she has had some good matches before. Watch the first match with Anna Jay. That was the non-pay-per-view one, for the record. That one was really, really good. But this was easily her best match. Chris Statlander totally helped put her over, and the two had a really great time. And even Aubrey Edwards was like, yeah, that was a great match. The crowd was loving it. They even got a Fight Forever chant going. It was 10 minutes exactly, give or take a second or two. Oh, by the way, when I say under 6 or 10 minutes, I'd say bell to bell, unless there is a fight beforehand, which clearly starts the match without the bell ringing. So just for future reference. So then that led to AEW Collision, where we had Chris Statlander versus Britt Baker in Pennsylvania in the main event for the TBS title, and that match was 14 minutes, give or take. And that was, I did not expect it to go that long. I really, really didn't. And then Chris pulled out a very orange, what should we call it? Orange Cassidian? Cassidian victory, which I'm sure surprised a lot of people because they really made it seem that Britt was going to win when she got Lockjaw in. But that was another great match. So this is kind of like the AEW blend tradition, if you will, because they will not put the women over many, many times. And I can give you plenty of examples, including Wembley, where they had one women's match on the card, and even TK said, I didn't want another women's match because it would ruin my perfect card. Really? really, Tony? You don't say. And remember, All Out only had one women's match on the main card, and the undercard match was just to be honest, it's kind of there. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like the women involved, especially Shida, Athena, Mercedes, but they could have done another match. So, but they'll do like a low point, And then they have these high points, like with the Rampage main event and the first ever Women's Collision main event. Again, 14 minutes, one of the longest matches on the card. I think it was actually second to the opening contest, which is a really good one between Blackpool Combat Club and Ricky and Big Bill. Um, so I don't know what's going to happen next. Grand Slam with the women right now, it's just uh, Saraya versus Tony Storm, which could be good. We know that they can go, but will they let them go? There's only 5 matches on the Dynamite card, and there will be a Rampage 2-hour event. So that's good to know, and I appreciate that because it's Arthur Ashe. Put as many of your stars on there as possible. Now, on to the Jade Cargill news, because as is confirmed by numerous sources, Jade Cargill is gone from AEW. Now, this is where things get tricky, because everyone is saying that she's going to WWE, and there's even WWE sources saying that she will be in the Performance Center next week. And then Sean Ross Sapp said that that might not be the case because she might be going to acting or coaching a softball team that she's very proud of, which is why Smart Mark Sterling had the jersey when Jay did her final AEW entrance. So, I don't know. But here's the important thing, and I got to make this absolutely clear here. There was apparently no malice in her departure. There was apparently no discord of, hey, AEW sucks, I need to get out of here. By all accounts, her contract just expired, and she wanted to leave. And WWE said, hey, if you leave, we'll pay you big bucks to come over here. That is her choice. Just like it's the choice of multiple WWE people, Swerve, Tony, Keith, FTR, to have left WWE and come to AEW because they wanted something better. If she wants to go, now I will say, and I know some of you have seen this article. A week before the reports came out that she was leaving for AEW for WWE, she wrote, or she was part of an interview where she praised Tony Khan to the moon and back. Like, seriously, go look it up. Like, she said, like, I've never had a better boss than Tony Khan. He's always there to answer my questions or to call me, or I'll leave a message and he'll call me like 3 minutes later. Like, she praised Tony Khan heavily, and then the next week she's gone. In the trade, we call that sus. 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 Now, whether she's an imposter or not, we'll have to find out. It won't be the first time there's an imposter among us. So look, and here's another thing for you, remember, for you longtime AEW fans. That's not the first woman to leave AEW for WWE. Remember Bea Priestley? I forgot about her, didn't you? Yeah, she was one of the actual AEW women's originals, and I actually really, really liked her. She was the former partner of Will Ospreay, in fact. But then she was let go during the pandemic because she was overseas and she just couldn't work. And, it wasn't exactly kosher, but that happened a lot during the pandemic, very sadly, including with WWE. And then she went to NXT UK, went to NXT proper, and, she's still there. So I think losing Britt Baker would be a big loss because of what she means to the division. Losing Shida, Thunder, I think the biggest problem AEW had with Jade was that they gave her the Goldberg route, and much like Goldberg, after a while you're tired of seeing them squash people, and I was really tired of them Jade squashing people, including people who absolutely deserve to be here for the title, including Athena. So if she does well in WWE, great. If she doesn't, I'm really sorry. Or maybe she doesn't go to WWE at all. There's still that option. Remember, all she's doing is going to the Performance Center, which is what Brian Pillman Jr. did recently, and now he's signed with WWE. But you never know. We'll just have to see what happens. Now, the other thing I want to talk about in terms of people throwing shade on AEW is the report about Wembley Stadium, because a Freedom of Information Act by the local government said that 81,035 people did not show up at Wembley, but that the turn aisle counter or whatever said it was 72,000. So, first of all, isn't it ironic that, days after this has happened, we have no real follow-up on that? It's just a report. And people's like, oh, TK's lying, and then 2 days later, no one's talking about it. Isn't that interesting? Also, isn't it interesting that we have never heard such a report for, say, I don't know, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Royal Rumble, but only AEW. How interesting that only AEW this has happened to. Do you see where I'm going with this, ladies and gentlemen? Yeah. I'm basically telling you this is a whole lot of crap. In fact, I actually looked it up just to see what was going on. And the Wrestling Observer, and yes, I know Dave and Brian aren't always the most accurate of people, but on this one, I actually trust them on. And not just because they're actually solidifying AEW, right? They actually gave proof of what's going on here. And just the turn aisle, or however they said it, is not a full indication of how many people were at Wembley. Okay? And even they said that traditionally, typically, these kinds of numbers never get released to the public. Again, this was a Freedom of Information Act thing, which is weird because I thought that was just an American thing. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. But that is not the entire counter. Not to mention, Tony Khan himself said during the post show press conference that he has the receipts to prove that 81,000 people bought it. It's really telling that this only happens in WWE. Like no one, yes, we all know the WrestleMania one where they said, oh, they had 100,000. Well, yeah, they technically did, but that wasn't paid attendance. TK specifically said paid attendance to Wembley. If if that is true, if there were only 72,000 paid fans there instead of the 81,000, okay, that's totally fine. You want to know why? Because there were still a lot of people, including a lot of WWE people, who didn't think they would get over 40,000, 50,000, 60,000. Even if it was only 72,000, which I do not believe. I think it was absolutely over 80,000. That's still over 70,000 people from AEW, for AEW, coming to Wembley to watch what I still believe is one of the best pay-per-views ever. And hey, what happens if next year they double and triple check to make sure that, oh, every number is correct and we get actually more than this year? Well, that would shut a lot of people up now, wouldn't it? Oh yeah, and Arthur Ashe, after they filled out the entire card, it had a huge ticket spike sale, and it's probably going to have that all the way up to the show. Probably won't be 20,000, but I'd be happy with like 10 to 15. I think that's very doable. We shall see. And then for next week's collision, we have Jay White versus Andrade El Idolo, and a lot more matches. Oh yeah, the not strap match, Texas Death Match. Bryan Danielson versus Ricky Starks. So it's going to be a big week for AEW. And do you know why, ladies and gentlemen? Because AEW is the home of professional wrestling and the best wrestling promotion in North America, if not the world. And you might be thinking, well, Todd, isn't there other wrestling shows I can watch? Is there, though?